Hi everyone, it's Dr. Newell, and I wanted to finish out this little segment on CH7-5, looking at simple interest, because this is a component that you're going to have to be able to solve. And there is an equation for it. It's relatively simple. It is I equals P times R times T. Okay, but I kind of want to get into this just for a second here. I am using Carnegie to go through this for you because I feel like it presents it in a good way. And you still can use Miss Kathy's work to um, practice through this. She has the same setup in her packet. All right, so I like to think about habits of mind, and I'm glad that this is here. We are looking for and making use of structure and looking for and expressing regularity in repeated reasoning. So when we talk about simple interest, we're going to think about saving money in a bank account, a banking account, or at a credit union. Okay, and as you save money, um, you put money in, and then every time you go and put money in, it just increases the amount that you have. And then there is also something called interest, where banks allow you to accrue an additional amount of money in your account over a period of time. Okay. So when we look at our bank account or our credit union account, you call the original amount of money the principal. So that is P. So just like the other day, Eli took his coins that he had collected and turned it into his bank. And let's just say there were, and I can't remember the exact amount, but let's just say he deposited an amount of $150, right? I think it was more than that, but this is from a coin jar. Okay. So that is his principal dollar amount. Now, the interest rate is the amount that the bank or the credit union agrees that they will put in at a certain time, right? That you can earn. Okay, so it's interest, a percentage of your principal amount. It's a percentage of whatever amount you have in there that is going to grow over a certain period of time. Okay, and then that becomes the interest earned dollar amount. So we're going to use his deposit as a discussion. Remember, this interest rate or this simple interest that we're talking about here, not necessarily the rate, but the total amount earned, it is fixed. It's a fixed percent of this principal earned over a specific amount of time. So here's our formula. I, interest earned dollars, which we don't know, equals the principal dollar amount, which is the amount that's there, times the interest rate, which the bank or or the credit union establishes over a specified amount of time, which is also established by the credit union or the bank. Okay. Um, and it's usually going to be years or um, months or something like that. There is another place where we look at simple interest, and that is for purchases that we make, maybe automobiles. If we want to go in and take out a loan to purchase an automobile or to purchase our home or something like that, we can also use, or to make a personal loan or something, we could also use this formula to calculate how much interest we will pay over time. Maybe even a credit card. There's interest that accrues, and how much is that interest going to be in dollar amount, in a dollar amount over a period of time. Okay. So here is an example, similar to what I was going to work for Elijah. So we will use this one first, and then we will just maybe use Elijah's example as something that we work up together when we come together to discuss this and make sure we have a pretty good understanding. I do want to go back for a second. When we're looking at these components here, it's important to know how they are reported out. Okay. The interest rate is a percentage. It is going to be reported as a percent. Okay. However, when we factor it all out, just like when we were doing the percent equation, we are going to write it as a decimal. So when we are factoring it into this equation here, we will write it as a decimal. So if it is an interest rate of 15%, right? We are going to factor it in here as 0.15 when we're trying to find out the interest. Also, something else that you need to know about this formula, just like our percent equation that we used earlier, you can be given any part of this formula, of this equation, and need to find any part of this equation, just like the percent proportion that we did. Maybe I'm given the interest rate, the principal dollar amount, and I'm sorry, the interest earned in dollars, the total interest earned in dollars. I'm also given the principal amount and I'm given the time, but I don't know the interest rate. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, having this formula allows you to plug in numbers or variables for any part of it and do the work. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our example here. Kim deposits $300 into a savings account at a simple interest rate of 5% per year. How much interest will she have earned at the end of 3 years? They gave you all the components you need to figure out how much interest she will have earned. Here are some of the discussions we're going to have. When we talk about how much interest she will have earned at the end of 3 years, how is that reported? It's reported in dollars. Okay. They gave us the principal amount that she put in, $300. They gave us the rate, 5%. So that means zero point 0.5 is what I'm multiplying it by. And the time is going to be there for 3 years. So I multiply all those together and I get the interest amount, the interest that she has earned. After 3 years, she should, if she never puts another cent in there, she will have 300 plus this $45. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope so. Notice how we just plug in all the values, and we know this is a complete multiplication problem on this side of the equation that gives us our interest. Now, here is a table where we have to plug in different amounts depending on what we have. The first several are given to us in the same manner in which our previous example was solved. And I think that's great because basically all I have to do is multiply P times I times T in order to get the interest in dollar amounts. And I must remember that when I multiply my interest rate here, I need to do that as a decimal. Okay, so we're going to practice on, I'm going to have you guys practice doing these few first, and then I will show you an example of where I don't have the principal amount, but I do have the total interest amount and how I can substitute and solve this problem. So I will do one of these as an example, and then I will just show you these others where different components are missing and how to go to solve it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with my principal amount of $75, right? And that's going to be 75 times 0.03 times 1. That will give me my total interest earned. All right, so I put $75 into the bank, and these are the simplest because all you're doing is multiplying across and converting your percent to a decimal. You've got to remember that though. Sometimes that gets people in trouble. So I'll type in 75 times 0.03 times 1, and I get 2.25. So how much interest in dollars? If I started out with $75 in my account and they told me that after 1 year you'll have an interest rate of 3%, how many extra dollars will I have, or how much extra money will I accrue over that time? Well, I will accrue 75 times 0.03 times 1, right, is $2.25. So for this line here, the second line, my interest earned is $2.25. And if I did not add any money to that account for that year, I would simply say it now. I have 75 plus 2.25, right? And if I add that together, that's a total of $77.25. I want you to pause this video here and go ahead and work on the other, at least one or two of these other problems from this line here down to this line, because those problems are similar to the example I just did. And when you come back, unpause and be ready to move on, because I am going to walk you through how do I plug this stuff in and change and find my answer. All right. So here I have my, I really want to, I don't want it to fade. There we go. So I have the simple interest, or the interest in dollar amounts, is P times R times T. I don't want to forget that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attack this one here. So I don't have the principal amount, right? So I am going to go ahead and put in P. And then I do have the rate, which is 4%, and I'm going to write it as 0.04. And then I am going to put in my time, which is times 3. And then that's going to equal 30. Okay. Now I'm writing it this way because that is how my problem is set up. The interest rate equals the principal amount times the interest earned equals the principal amount times the interest rate as a decimal times 3. So I don't have the principal. So then I am going to start. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Let me fix that. All right, here we go. I rewrote it. So now I am going to start solving this problem. So what I can do, what I know I'm able to do right now, is multiply 0.04 times 3. And I know that 4 times 3 is 12. I have 2 spaces to the right of my decimal. So that is going to end up being P times 0.12 equals 30. Okay. How do I get P by itself? Because that's what I'm trying to find out. Well, right now, P is being multiplied by 0.12. So I want to divide both sides by 0.12, because whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. Okay. So then I know that if I divide this side by 0.12, that's just going to cancel it out. And so I'll go ahead and divide 30 by 0.12. And that leaves me, hold on, if I divide, what did I say? 30 divided by 0.12 leaves me with 250. So my principal amount was $250. Okay. If you need to go back over that, please take your time. Should my principal amount be $250? Now, this is how we're going to check everything. Okay. And I could hear someone saying, but if you divide 30 by 0.12, how does your number become so large? Well, I did divide it by a decimal, or a fraction, if you will. And so think about it this way. If I have $250, and we can check this by multiplying across now. So I've got 250 times 0.04, right? 250 times 0.04, which gives me 10. Does that make sense? So my numbers are getting smaller, times 3, which leaves me with 30. And that is the answer. That was the interest earned. You can't see it because I kind of covered it up. Okay. But that is correct. All right. So let's get rid of this and let's move on to interest rate. We'll do this one next. Okay. Now for interest rate, it says that, remember our formula says P times R times T equals interest earned. Okay. So I have everything except for the interest rate. So let me go ahead and build that out. So I have 500 times I, because I don't have that amount, right? Times, or I could put times R. Let me put times R because I want to be consistent. P times R times T equals I. So I have 500 times R times T equals 120. So now what I'm going to do, say times T times 4. All right. So what I'm going to do now is remember that um, I can still multiply 500 times 4. So let's do that. 500 times 4 is 2000. Okay. And then I am going to multiply 2000 times R to give me 120. But I don't know what R is, and I want to get R by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by this 2000. So I'll divide 120 by 2000, or some of you may prefer to call it 2000. And I will get, as an answer, I'll get R equals 0.06. Now, that is written as a decimal. I need to convert my decimal to a percent. And I know in order to do that, I'm going to multiply by 100, or as you're going to probably hear teachers say, move the decimal 2 points to the right, or you will hear me say, pick up that 0.06 and move it to spaces so that your it sits in front of your decimal. Okay. So then my answer is 6%. R equals 6%. That is how you do it. I don't personally feel like this is outside of y'all's reach. All you have to do is remember some key things about plugging numbers into your formula and remembering to convert. Whenever we're dealing with percent during this whole unit, you need to remember to convert to a decimal to do the work and then to convert back to the percent for reporting. Okay? I think that's going to be it for this one. And I'm excited about seeing you work out some problems with simple interest. So I'm going to clear this, and I want what I'd like for you to do. You're going to have some of this practice in your own book, in your own packet, but in the event that you need more practice, go ahead and finish working on this chart. Okay. You can take a screenshot of it if that helps you. And I will click on to the next slide so you can see that one as well, because that may help you too. Let me clear that and get off the pen tool for now. So you can copy this, just screenshot it and work on it for more practice. And if you don't do it on your own, you'll probably do it with me. And here's another one. Okay. And that is it. Ciao for now.